Welcome to the Knowledge Seeker channel. The channel is dedicated to exploring critical issues in the world. Today's presentation is titled Uromi Killings versus Herdsmen's Killings. Are some Nigerians superior to other Nigerians? The double standard in Nigeria. Well, this story is about the way Nigerians reacted to the killings of 16 northerners at Uromi compared to the way Nigerians have been reacting towards the killing of Nigerians by Fulani herdsmen, bandits, and kidnappers. Now, let's see the national reaction to the Uromi killing of 16 northerners in Edo State. It is interesting to see the national reaction to the unfortunate and regrettable killings in Uromi in Edo State. Following the unfortunate killings of 16 northerners who were returning to Kano for the Salah celebration at Uromi, every power that be in Nigeria has spoken about the evils of jungle justice. All of a sudden, it seems that this is the first time jungle justice has taken place in Nigeria. Nigerians talk about the killings in Uromi without contextualizing the physical, political, and psychological factors that prompted the unfortunate extrajudicial killings. It is a fact that Fulani herders have repeatedly attacked farmers and the communities in Edo State, especially in the Uromi area, for years, just like in other states of the Federation. Some estimates put the number of people that have been killed by Fulani horsemen in the Esan area to about 200 people prior to the killings of the 16 northerners in Uromi. One Mr. Isaac Asabo wrote about the insecurity in the Uromi area by saying, and I quote, "Without a doubt, Uromi and neighboring communities in Esan land have been witnessing a history of hostility and survival from the hands of herdsmen and hunters of northern extraction. For years, Uromi, a largely agrarian community, has been under siege from armed herdsmen. The people have suffered relentless attacks, farm destruction, kidnappings, and killings. The tension between herders and farmers in Nigeria is well documented, but in Uromi, it has been particularly intense. Their plight has often been overlooked by both state and federal governments, leaving them to fend for themselves in face of grave security threats." And I unquote. Basically, neither the state government nor the federal government has ever made any serious effort to stop the herders from harassing, intimidating, killing, and destroying farmlands and communities in Uromi. The manner and tone that the Northern Elders Forum and youths reacted to the horrific and extrajudicial killings in Uromi seems to tell the world that Northern Nigerians are superior to Central and Southern Nigerians. Hence, thousands of Nigerians that have been killed by Fulani herdsmen, bandits, kidnappers, and Islamists are nothing compared to the 16 Fulanis or Hausas killed in Uromi. As a result, they gave an ultimatum to Edo State and the federal government to arrest the culprits and bring them to book within a given period. They ignore the fact that their people have killed thousands destroyed many communities, and sent millions of Nigerians to the internally displaced camps. Sadly, central and southern Nigerian leaders have never given an ultimatum to the governments of northern states to fish out violent herders, bandits, and kidnappers that have killed thousands of central and southern Nigerians. Due to the fact that either Fulanis or Hausas or both were killed in Uromi, the federal government acted sheepishly as if Nigeria is owned by northern Nigeria and central and southern Nigerians are colonies of northern Nigeria. It quickly sealed off Uromi with security forces to please the northern demand. So many innocent citizens have been arrested and detained at Uromi. The federal government did not respond to Uromi call for help as herders attacked them incessantly for years. On the other hand, the federal government has never reacted with full force as it did in Uromi, in Abia, Benue, Bayelsa, Cross River, Delta, Edo, Enugu, Imo, Kaduna, Niger, Ogun, Ondo, Osun, Plateau, and Taraba states following herdsmen's attacks and killings. Is the federal government telling Nigerians that some Nigerians are superior to other Nigerians? The federal government need to answer this question. Now, let's see some of the media coverings of the national reaction to the Uromi killings. Killings. The CDC, that is the Chief of Defense Staff, CAN, the Christian Association of Nigeria, PFN, seek justice for victims in the Uromi killings. That was March 31st, 2025 in Vanguard. So you have all these prominent Nigerians asking that justice be done for the killing of the northerners in Uromi. This is the truck or the lorry that, or the bus that was carrying the 16 northerners that were killed at Uromi. Daily Post of Nigeria follow with this caption: Edo mob killing. Northern elders make 3 demands, issue ultimatum. Now, let's look at the Northern elders' 3 demands on Edo State and the federal government. 1. The arrest and trial of those responsible for the killing of 16 northern travelers in Uromi in a public, transparent, and accountable manner. 2. Unreserved public apology from Uromi and Edo State authorities, along with a promise for such act not to repeat itself. And 3. Compensation to be paid to the families of the victims in line with prescribed standards. The NEF, which is what? The Northern Elders Forum, gave Edo State and the federal government 2 weeks to meet the demands. 2 weeks that the northern leaders are telling the government of Edo and the federal government to act on the killing of the 16 northerners. Here you have Daily Post of Nigeria. The title is what? Northern youths condemn brutal killings of 16 in Edo, warned against retaliation. Here you have former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, former Governor Kwankwaso of Kano State, condemned mob lynching of 16 northern hunters in Edo, demand justice. And as you can see, northern leaders have never condemned herdsmen's killing of Nigerians. For the past 10 years, they've always remained silent. Even former Vice President Atiku always remains silent, as if they don't know what is happening. But now that 16 were killed, they come out to express their views on the matter. Now, let's see the Northern Youth reaction or request for immediate action. The Northern Youth Association of Nigeria called for the following actions. 1. Relevant authorities to take immediate action to apprehend the culprits and try them. 2. The Edo State government to take concrete steps to prevent such acts from happening again. And 3. The group called for calm in the north and warned against retaliatory action. When you compare the suggestion of the Northern Youth Association to the Northern Elders Forum, I think the Northern Youths were more moderate in their views than the Northern Elders Forum. Now, let's look at the response of the Edo State government to the killing of the 16 Northerners at Uromi. Governor Monday Okpebholo responded to the killings in the following ways. 1. He paid a visit to Kano State to extend his condolence to the families of the 16 victims. 2. He met with the governor and leaders of the community. 3. He promised to ensure justice for the victims by bringing the perpetrators to book. 4. He retrieved the bodies of the victims for proper burial. And 5. The governor also met with the deputy president of the Senate of the National Assembly in response to the demands of the Northern Elders Forum. Now, let's look at federal government's response to the killings at Uromi. 1. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu directed security agencies to go after the suspects and promised that justice will be done. 2. The Nigerian police force assigned the Deputy Inspector General of Police, who is in charge of the Criminal Investigation Department, to investigate the killings, resulting in the arrest of 14 suspects in the case. 3. The Chief of Defense Staff, Lieutenant General Christopher Musa, condemned the unfortunate killings and promised to work with the police and other security agencies to apprehend the suspects. Now, let's look at the impressions created by the national reactions to the Uromi killings. 1. The reaction to the killings of the 16 Northerners in Uromi creates the impression that this is the first time such unwarranted killings of Nigerians have taken place. 2. The reaction also creates the impression that pretension has become part of the corrupt political culture in Nigeria. 3. The reaction to the killings of the 16 Northerners by the political, military, and police leadership of the country creates the impression that the lives of Northerners are more important than the lives of other Nigerians who have faced unprovoked bloodletting and destruction by Fulani herdsmen for about 10 years now. Now, let's see the other way around, the victims of Fulani herdsmen killings and destruction of farms and communities. So let's see how Fulani herdsmen have been inflicting death and destruction to Nigerians. The pictures below show a few of the horrific killings and destruction that have been perpetrated by armed northern groups, including Boko Haram, Fulani herdsmen, bandits, kidnappers, and others against innocent Nigerians throughout the country prior to the Uromi killings. So the Uromi killings are not the first time that extrajudicial killings have taken place in Nigeria. Let us look at the media headlines depicting the unprovoked killings of Nigerians. Here you have Edo youths give Fulani herders quit notice because they were tired of constantly being harassed, attacked, killed, and their farmlands destroyed. As you can see, most of the demonstrators here are women, and it is always the women and children and the elderly who are always the greatest victims of the herders' attacks. So here they are protesting, demonstrating, and want Fulani herdsmen to leave their territory. Vanguard News, February 18, 2025. The title is Insecurity. Fulani herdsmen have taken over swath of land in Benue. Representative raises alarm. In other words, Benue State has been greatly affected by Fulani herdsmen's attack to the point that they've taken over many communities in that area after driving away the indigenous owners of the land. Vanguard, April 29, 2023. The title reads, 6,000 killed, communities sacked, 2 million farmers displaced, Buhari days darkest for Benue. This statistics was gathered during the time of President Muhammadu Buhari, who did not do anything to stop Fulani herdsmen from killing Nigerians. Here you have mass burials of Nigerians killed by Fulani herdsmen in Benue State. You see how they line up the coffins of the innocent Nigerians killed. Because so many people were killed. I think there are about 70 people were killed here. Here again you have mass burials of victims of Fulani herdsmen killings in Plateau State. Again, you see the coffins line up for mass burial. As you can see, the federal government did not mobilize to arrest the culprits who perpetrated these killings the way the federal government reacted to apprehend the culprits at Uromi in Edo State. Herdsmen killings in Oyo State by Daily Post, published June 6, 2021. Oyo herdsmen killings, 50 dead, not once war in Nigeria, Gani Adams. You see, 50 people were killed in Oyo State, just like that. And the federal government did not mobilize full force to arrest the culprits. And that has always been the case. When herdsmen kill other Nigerians, the federal government does not react with full force. But the moment any Nigerian kills a Fulani herdsman, Nigerian police army will reinforce. Vanguard, herdsmen killed 17 in Kaduna village. That was May 13, 2020. Daily Trust, killings. Bayelsa youths threaten reprisal against herders. Vanguard, May 20, 2017. herdsmen decimating Delta State. That means that the herdsmen literally invade Delta State and were occupying different parts of Delta State to kill people, destroy farmlands, making life very miserable, especially for the farming communities. The sun, climate of fear as killer herdsmen take over Bayelsa Forest. April 11, 2023. Here, you see how the herdsmen destroy a whole community. Look at some of the surviving victims. Herdsmen overrun farm settlements, occupy homes, schools in Enugu's Eha, Amufo, amid government silence. So this tells you that neither the state nor the federal government reacted with full force to apprehend the culprits who carry out these destructive attacks in Enugu State. Because the victims are non-Fulanis. Fulani herdsmen kill over 20, raised church in Enugu. See, look at the herdsmen, they look more like trained soldiers. Look at the guns. All these are military type of weapons that they carry. That is why farmers cannot face them face to face, because they are fully armed. Now, the question is, why is the Nigerian government failing to respond to Fulani killings? What is it that the Nigerian government always hesitate to fully mobilize against Fulani herdsmen's attacks? This is the headline published April 5, 2025. Killings in Benue, Plateau by armed herdsmen deserve attention as Uromi incident. So these two incidents happened within the same time that the Uromi incident took place. So in the case of Uromi, the Nigerian government mobilized fully, seal up the community to arrest the culprits. And yet, in the case of Benue and Plateau, the federal government take a very low key. It is as if the people in this part of Nigeria do not deserve to be protected. Here you have it on a newspaper headline. Only Fulani herders are allowed to carry gun by the Nigerian government. Let's understand this part of the story. Nigeria passed a law that banned the carrying of dangerous weapons by citizens. The Nigerian police force reinforced the national law when the Inspector General of Police gave a directive ordering citizens to return their legally purchased guns. Thus, any Nigerian caught with prohibited weapons like artillery, gas diffusing projectiles, revolvers, pistols, machine guns, machine pistols, and military rifles is immediately arrested by the Nigerian police force. Nigerians who have weapons that are not banned are required to register them. Anyone caught with prohibited weapon is arrested. Yet, the NPF, which stands for the Nigerian Police Force, rarely confiscate prohibited weapons carried by Fulani herders in Nigeria. Why is the police not confiscating guns from Fulani herdsmen? That is the $1 billion question that the Nigerian police force must answer. Here you have a Fulani herdsman with guns. You can see this is a military type of weaponry. Here again you have a Fulani herdsman with a gun, and they carry it along with their cows. Even when the police see them, they don't do anything to them. Here you have Fulani jihadist group in the northwest of Nigeria. They are heavily armed. Sometimes they are even more armed than the Nigerian police and the Nigerian army. Now, let's look at some statistics of herdsmen's and jihadist attacks and killings in Nigeria. Indeed, killers from Islamic northern Nigeria have been killing Nigerians for years. Boko Haram has terrorized the northeast for about 10 years, starting from 2011, killing over 66,768 people and displaced about 2 million people in the northeast, northwest, and north central Nigeria from 2011 to 2023. One study indicated that about 2,000 people died each year from 2011 to 2016 from violence perpetrated by herdsmen. In 2018, Fulani extremists killed 1,158 Nigerians. In 2019, they killed 325 people. However, cumulatively, of all the terrorist incidents, 1,245 Nigerians were killed in 2019. The Observatory for Religious Freedom in Africa estimated that 11,000 incidents of extreme violence took place from October 2019 to September 2023. The observatory also noted that for the period mentioned, 16,769 Christians, 6,235 Muslims, and 154 adherents of traditional religions were killed. In addition, about 42% of the violent attacks were carried out by Fulani herdsmen. Very clear. And yet, look at the way the Northern Elders Forum reacted to the killing of 16 Northerners compared to all the numbers mentioned here that have been killed by Fulani herdsmen. Sahara Reporters report, look at the title, Jihadist herdsmen account for 80% of killings in Southeast, Enugu, Imo are worst hit states. Report. That means that in the southeast of Nigeria, which is predominantly Igbo land, Fulani herdsmen carried out 80% of the killings, particularly in Enugu and Imo states of the region. This is serious. Now, let's see how the actions of the Northern Elders Forum has established a precedent in Nigeria in dealing with unprovoked attacks. Indeed, Northern political elites and youths have established a precedent for dealing with the unprovoked killings of Nigerians. They did so in many ways. One, they acted as if this is the first time people have been horrifically killed in Nigeria. Two, hence they insisted unequivocally that justice must take place by arresting and prosecuting the perpetrators of the killings of the 16 Northerners in Uromi, Edo State. 3. They insisted that financial compensation must be paid to the families of the victims. So can you imagine if the families of the victims of thousands of Nigerians that have been killed were to ask northern leaders to pay compensation, what do you think will happen? Fourth, they call for public apology and a promise never for such killings of northerners to take place in Edo State. 5, well, they have established a precedent that must be kept. How? In the following ways. A, northern leaders must also pay condolence visits to the states in which Fulani herders, bandits and kidnappers have killed thousands of Nigerians. B, they must pay compensation to the families of thousands of Nigerians who have been killed violently by Fulani herdsmen. C, the northern leadership must tell Fulani herdsmen to evacuate communities that they have forcefully occupied in an unprovoked manner, killed and drove away those who escaped the mayhems. D, northern leaders must promise to stop herdsmen, bandits and kidnappers from continuing to invade farmlands, allow cows to eat crops, kill people, destroy and occupy farming communities. And E, northern leaders must take the suggested actions as they requested in their ultimatum at Uromi. Why? Because what is good for the goose is good for the gander. The federal government too has established a precedent in responding to the Uromi case. Based on the way the federal government reacted to the Uromi killings, as if this is the first time such a thing has happened in Nigeria, it must do the same in places where Fulani herdsmen, bandits and kidnappers have killed thousands of Nigerians and destroyed and occupied farmlands throughout the country. 1. The federal government must mobilize and deploy security forces in full force to arrest Fulani herdsmen, bandits and kidnappers when they threaten farming communities. 2. The federal government must mobilize and deploy full force to flush out Fulani herdsmen, bandits and kidnappers in states they set up camps. The federal government must stop treating Fulanis as if they are above the law and other Nigerians are below the law by applying the same standard in the enforcement of the law. 4. The federal government must stop pampering Boko Haram fighters by supposedly rehabilitating and reintegrating them and apply the law as it is about to do with the culprits in Uromi. 5. The federal government must treat all Nigerians, whether they are from the upper Islamic north, north central, southwest, southeast, and south-south the same way. 6. Since the Uromi people decided to act to protect themselves from perennial attacks by Fulani herdsmen, if the federal government does not act proactively to stop herders' attacks, kidnapping and banditry from now on, it should expect other Nigerian communities to take proactive measures to prevent herdsmen from attacking them without waiting for the national government. 7. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and the governors must deploy preventive measures to stop Fulani herders, otherwise Nigerians might begin to ignore the government and take measures as the Uromi people did to stop herders from killing them. The federal government and the state governors must adopt effective measures to ensure the security of lives and properties of Nigerians. And 8. Federal government must treat the victims of Fulani herdsmen attack in Benue and Plateau states the same way you responded to the Uromi killings of 16 governors. Now, the Edo State government too has established a precedent. How? Since the Edo State governor, Monday Okpebholo, responded to the ultimatum issued by the Northern Elders Forum, he too must issue an ultimatum to Northern governors to visit Uromi and compensate the indigents who have been traumatized by years of herdsmen's attacks and killings. The governors of Plateau and Benue States must issue ultimatums and order the governors of the states from which the herdsmen come from to visit, pay condolence to the families of the victims, and compensate them. From now on, all state governors in North Central, Southeast, Southwest, and South-South must make sure they issue ultimatum whenever farmlands and people have been killed by herdsmen, kidnappers, and bandits. Indeed, Northern leaders have set the motion going. There is no doubt about that. Northern leaders and youths, you have demonstrated that the life of a Northerner is probably more important than those of the Middle Belt and Southern Nigeria. Therefore, learning from you, other Nigerians will begin to take their lives very seriously too. To avoid further animosity, tell the Boko Haram, Fulani herders, bandits, and kidnappers from inflicting pain, death, and destruction on other Nigerians. You have set the precedent in Uromi, hence Central and Southern Nigerians are going to be more proactive in defending their lives. There is a need to tone down the rhetoric to reduce tension and bring peace to Nigeria. Justice must apply equally to all Nigerians. Thank you for listening to this presentation. Please subscribe to the channel and listen to other very captivating presentations. Again, thank you very much.